Hi, my name is Brandon Telg, and this is the most likely final Story GNV Summer 2020 live stream. And this presentation is Innovation Through Nonfiction Writing. Presenting this tonight is going to be Dylan Klempner and Heather Halak. Both of them are fantastic writers and are involved in the literary world in Gainesville in different ways. Dylan, among other things, is a journalist, writer, artist, and Heather is a writer, and you may know her as the owner of Third House Books. And they have a wonderful presentation ready for you today. And as I'm stumbling through all of this, I'm going to hand the mic over to them because they are ready to go with something really special. So that being said, here is Dylan and Heather.
Thanks, Brandon.
Thanks, Brandon.
Okay, so welcome everybody. Heather and I just wanted to share some, first of all, we'll share some activities, and then we'll have a discussion about ways that you can use nonfiction writing in a variety of different implementations in your life. So let's start right away with the activities. And these are things that you can do at home. The first one is something that you can do on your own. It's something that I often do with groups of people in writing workshops. There's a wonderful poem by George L. Lyon called Where I'm From, and I often use this as a prompt. So I would suggest taking, 10 minutes or so and read. So first read the poem, and then take 10 minutes and write in connection with the poem. And then I could read the poem. Do you think I should read the poem?
You should read it. Yeah, that's what
okay.
I was gonna say. I think you should read it.
I'll read it. Okay. Where I'm From by George L. Lyon. I'm from clothespins, from Clorox and carbon tetrachloride. I am from the dirt under the back porch, black, glistening, it tasted like beets. I am from the forsythia bush, the Dutch elm, whose long gone limbs I remember as if they were my own. I am from fudge and eyeglasses, from Imogene and Alifair. I'm from the know-it-alls and the pass-it-ons, from perk up and pipe down. I'm from he restoreth my soul with a cotton ball lamb, and 10 verses I can say myself. I'm from Artemis and Billy's branch, fried corn and strong coffee, from the finger my grandfather lost to the auger, the eye my father shut to keep his sight. Under my bed was a dress box spilling old pictures, a sift of lost faces to drift beneath my dreams. I am from those moments, snapped before I budded, leaf fall from the family tree. So if you feel inspired in some way from that poem, and maybe you like the cadence of I am from, I am from, I am from, I'd encourage you to sit down and just quickly write whatever comes to mind.
Yeah, and I like how that poem doesn't limit where you're from to a geographical location. I think that's also really important.
Absolutely, yeah. It's really inclusive of sort of life experience. The second activity for you all today is really, it's sort of the opposite. So while the first activity was all about your own experience and where you're from, this second one is an attempt to help us look to other people. So in some cases, you might want to interview somebody, and this is a really nice exercise and write down what they say. So this is a really nice exercise to kind of practice that skill. It's interviewing someone about the history of their name. So while this is really good to practice, it's your writing skills, it's also good if you're at a party and you're trying to find something to say to somebody new. So there's a variety of questions here that I've listed or that we've listed that you can use to get information about people's names, which you'll find are pretty fascinating. What does your name mean? Where were you named after someone, etc. And we've also created some interview tips. So when you're interviewing somebody, in particular for this activity, you're going to want to take notes. And if someone is speaking too quickly, it's okay to pause and say, okay, just hold on 1 second while I get that down. I've found that as a reporter, even I used to not use a recorder. I use a recorder now, but when I first started out, I was just writing things down, and people were really always patient. Write down things that interest you and look for stories in people's names. And then what I usually do when I do this with folks in workshops is we'll come back and have people introduce the person that they interviewed. So they really have to pay attention and write down things about that person's name. So they would introduce their partner based on what they learned about their name. So that's a really, really great activity to do if you're interested in learning skills, interviewing skills. And then Heather wants to present a homework assignment. Another homework assignment.
Yeah, I guess they're all homework assignments
They're all
now.
homework assignments.
So when Dylan first read the Where I'm From poem, I immediately thought of this one vignette from The House on Mango Street, and it's called My Name. This was like one of the first books to make me feel proud of being Latina and to make me feel proud of where I'm from. So they're very tied together, like your name and where you're from. Do you want me to read the poem, Dylan?
Sure, yeah.
My name. In English, my name means hope. In Spanish, it means too many letters. It means sadness. It means waiting. It is like the number 9, a muddy color. It is the Mexican records my father plays on Sunday mornings when he is shaving. Songs like sobbing. It was my great-grandmother's name, and now it is mine. She was a horsewoman too, born like me in the Chinese year of the horse, which is supposed to be bad luck if you're born female. But I think this is a Chinese lie, because the Chinese, like the Mexicans, don't like their women strong. My great-grandmother, I would have liked to have known her, a wild horse of a woman, so wild she wouldn't marry, until my great-grandfather threw a sack over her head and carried her off. Just like that, as if she were a fancy chandelier. That's the way he did it. And the story goes, she never forgave him. She looked out the window her whole life, the way so many women sit their sadness on an elbow. I wonder if she made the best with what she got, or was she sorry because she couldn't be all the things she wanted to be? Esperanza. I've inherited her name, but I don't want to inherit her place by that window. At school, they say my name funny, as if the syllables were made out of tin and hurt the roof of your mouth. But in Spanish, my name is made out of a softer something, like silver, not quite as thick as sister's name, Magdalena, which is uglier than mine. Magdalena, who at least can come home and become Neni. But I'm always Esperanza, would like to baptize myself under a new name, a name more like the real me, the one nobody sees. Esperanza like as Lisandra or Maritza or Zizi, the ex. Yes, something like Zizi, the ex, will do.
I love that.
It's so good.
It's so good.
So with these two poems in mind, we ask you, to take the time to, in addition to interviewing your partner and honing those listening skills, to also write about your name and submit that to us at braidedbrook.com. And that kind of leads into the next thing, which is, why do we do nonfiction writing? Why write true stories? There's so many reasons to do this. And I'm sure that there's some already on your mind. But the first would be for personal growth. And, this can include something like journaling and then allowing yourself to go back and reflect. It could be self-reflection in the moment, self-evaluation, even just in moments of crises, writing something down that is how you feel and your truth is really helpful and insightful. And
It can also be therapeutic.
yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's with like journaling too. I mean, I think
Right.
being able to hold yourself accountable too and see like, wow, I've grown this much, or maybe I've fallen into some of the same behaviors that I thought I was over.
Right.
So yeah, personal accountability.
There it is.
And
Right.
then there's also professional reasons to do this. You have to consider in all of these things, where am I from? Where am I now? How is my health? How's my family life? How's my spiritual life? How's my relationship with myself? How are my relationships with my friends, my loved ones? Where do I want to go in these relationships? Where do I want to go with myself personally? And this also helps us to focus on our careers. And so this professional growth, Dylan, you're great at putting slides.
Not really.
So for professional growth, this can really help with establishing a brand, planning strategically, knowing who your organization is, where do you fit into that organization. And this has been really important for me as a small business owner, and in owning a bookstore especially, that is a community space that prides itself on being a safe space. In wanting to create a safe space, that means being able to hold myself and anyone else involved accountable, because no one is perfect and there's going to be mistakes, and it's just a matter of learning and having those things, you know, be brought to light.
Have you done as a organization, have you done any of that kind of reflective work? Because I know that is really a part, like such an important part of Third House since it was started.
Yeah, so I did have an article through Self Narrate,
Oh,
which
right.
with Brandon, that was an op-ed in the Gainesville Sun. Thank you for reminding me of that. And it was the story of how I got involved with Third House, but it was also the story of content warning, my assault, and my depression, and you know, getting diagnosed with PTSD, and not knowing what was next for me. And I found a lot of solace in literature, and I think a lot of people do as well. And it's also like finding solace in writing, and not just like consuming other people's word, but like getting your own truth out of your body is really important. And then even professionally, like not on such a heavy note, but I have been like in interviews about different events that have happened and our take on them as an organization, not just me personally, but you know, everyone in this country is well aware of the demonstrations going on and the murder of George Floyd. And after his murder, there was a huge influx of orders for anti-racist titles. And there was also really entitled people who were not people of color who felt that they needed to work on their racism right now. And it made things for booksellers really hard across the country. So I did an interview on that. So there's like multiple ways to cultivate and hone that professional narrative, and how you want to present your organization, or how you want to present your own position or place within an organization. It doesn't necessarily have to be your business or your own project. It could be that, you know, you do PR for a company, or you're working on expanding this company that you work at. You're working on establishing their reach to different audiences.
So you feel like the personal and the professional reflection are linked.
Absolutely, because I think you need to be aware of how you feel and know how to synthesize that with action if you're involved in an organization.
And it seems like writing has helped you do that.
Absolutely. I mean, I think I have my clearest thoughts when I write.
Mm.
It helps to have a wall to bounce ideas off of, even if they're your own ideas, but you can see them on paper. And, you know, you might write how you feel about something one day and come back to it and feel differently the next. It just happens.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think I started keeping a journal when I was just after college, and I was really trying to figure out what to do. And I think the most important thing for me that writing has allowed, at least journaling particularly, is a kind of, I can put it in the journal and it's down, and I can let it sit for a while, like get it out of my brain and into somewhere that I can go back to if necessary. That process. And I know there's been some research around it that says that that's really helpful for us. Like as far as helping us deal with anxiety and things like that. And I definitely think that that's been true. It kind of helps me organize like my next steps. And instead of like, I'm somebody who kind of tends to mull things over sometimes.
Same.
And if I can write it down, I feel like I can, okay, set it aside for a little bit and then come back to it with a fresh outlook.
Yeah, it's like word vomit, but like in your journal.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
great.
exactly. Do you want to talk a little bit about where folks can publish? Because I know some people like to just keep a journal, keep it private. I mean, I did that for a long time, and keep it personal, and there's huge benefit to that. You can also do that in your professional life, but there's also folks who want to use who want to publish pieces, whether it's personal work or professional work. So I thought we could go over some of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first example would be like a newspaper op-ed, like I've spoken about, having an op-ed in the Gainesville Sun. And that op-ed, thanks to Self-Narrate and also Dylan, who's awesome, that was published in Dylan's publication called Braided Brook. Do you want to talk about Braided Brook, Dylan, since it's
Sure. Yeah, so Braided Brook started as it's a nonfiction literary journal, and it's now actually part of Self-Narrate. And most of the material in Braided Brook is the essays that are published in the Gainesville Sun first. So then we collect them in Braided Brook. And actually Heather is also a co-editor of Braided Brook. Yeah, so, and we're constantly taking submissions. So if you have a personal story that's 750 to 1,000 words, definitely feel free to go to the website and submit a piece of writing. And you'll work with us. It's Brandon and me and Heather. And we're excited to work with folks. And yeah.
And then I think for the longer works, we've talked about even like yoga instructors having their own personal newsletters and things like that. I think that's really cool. Actually, my acupuncturist has her own newsletter, and I learn a lot from it all the time just because I'm not well versed in Chinese medicine at all. And then there's also industry magazines, journals. Every industry has specific things, and they're all nuanced and different. In my case, there's not a whole lot of booksellers who have a journal and talk about things, but I think when you own a bookstore, or even just like a community space, like I think the CMC is a great example of another organization that has really tapped into their narrative and are really tapped into their history, like with Stetson Kennedy, and being here for 27 years. I think there's an abundance of ways, but for community space specifically, it's on you to do it yourself, and that can be really challenging and that can be a little scary, but I have found that it's always worth it.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned some of these. I mean, one of the things that under the others, I was thinking of alternative presses and zines and things like that. I know there's a really vibrant community around zines still, kind of in opposition, I think, to the digital world. And
Yeah.
we have like Saw locally, where they publish independent comics. So that's obviously another. And I know Tom has a storytelling class, so he's personal storytelling and comics are very connected, and he teaches a great class on that.
Yeah,
And
and I hope he continues that class. I know that they're moving,
oh,
but I
really?
think, yeah, they're moving. I know
I didn't
that
know that.
Tom Hart and Lee Corbin are incredible storytellers in Gainesville, and I mean, even Really Lightning as a book
Mm.
is heart-wrenching
Hmm.
and about their life.
The one of the things that I was thinking of when you were talking too about newsletters is newsletters seem to be one of those things that are really popular. I think it's another, they seem to be growing a lot. And I think it's another one of those things that's kind of in opposition um, to the social media world, where social media is kind of a little bit less personal than getting an email from somebody. Um, I know I get a few newsletters, and they're interesting. Some of them are personal, some of them are professional, like organizations. So those might be things that are interesting to integrate into your professional life. They're a way to stay connected to if you have customers or donors, if you're a nonprofit. Have you ever thought of using a newsletter for Third House?
We do use one. I actually
Cool.
submitted it today. I try
Nice.
to do it weekly, but with the pandemic, it has been hard to have the motivation to do it. Or it felt like there was hardly anything worth updating people on. But now that I've been doing more virtual events and I have had some signed editions from Florida writers, like that's a series I'm working on right now. I have been doing newsletter probably the past 3 weeks now again. So that's been really great. Actually, Tom Hart is who helped me set it up. But it has been really nice because even from just a logistic standpoint, it's really hard to update your customers on everything going on even when you're interacting in person and having a conversation, because there are things you're going to forget. So it's nice to kind of have links available and, the background of, why we're doing this project or what this event is about, without feeling like I'm talking at them for a while, and also, allowing them to engage at their leisure.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I mean, in the pandemic, they're so useful. I mean, it's like continuing the conversation or reminding them of their last visit and that we're still thinking about them. And I mean, we're still doing online orders and only doing mail orders just because like I have some chronic health issues. But it's nice that people are like, "Oh, you're doing well. I'm glad," and they'll like respond, and that's really sweet and nice to hear back from our customers, because we really miss everybody too. Like everybody's lonely.
Absolutely. Yeah, I feel like communication now is so important, especially now.
Yeah.
Any way you can.
And for others, I was also thinking like not just the Gainesville Sun, but
Hmm.
we have some great local alternative presses like the Iguana and the
Hmm.
Fine Print. And I've seen some incredible work in both.
Hmm.
And Joe, who runs the Iguana, he's great. I work with him a lot at the CMC since I'm on the board there, which is why I'm like familiar with the history there, and I think the way they cultivate narrative at the CMC is really incredible. But the iguana and the fine print, I know the iguana goes out monthly, but I believe the fine print is quarterly. Regardless, they're both really great local publications, and not as I don't know what the right word is for the Gainesville Sun, but it's not as intimidating as the Gainesville Sun.
Mm-hmm. Well, what do you think?
I mean, I think that our activities are great. And I mean, I'm sad that we're not able to do this in the interactive way that we intended when we had planned this in March. We really wanted people to break out groups and interview each other and then present their partner in front of everybody. I think that exercise in listening and learning while also processing information and making sure that you clearly understand it is really important in storytelling, especially nonfiction storytelling, because even if it's just us writing about ourselves, we need to be paying attention to our intentions and our feelings when we put out that narrative, whether it be personal or professional. So I'm a little sad we can't do the same exercises, but I'm still really glad that we got to do this together.
Me too. Yeah, it would have been nice to have a big group of people and doing it with everybody, but
I think
in the spirit of communication, please, if you do the activities and you want to submit something to Braided Brook or send one of us an email, please feel free.
Yeah, and if you are quarantining with a friend, family member, a loved one, and you want to do the name exercise with them, we'd love to hear about your experience. There's probably something about their name that you don't know.
Absolutely. Well, thanks a lot, Heather. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you, Dylan.
All right.